fighter has the highest fight IQ?
I don't think there's nobody in the game that has the fight IQ that I have.
Off the charts.
His IQ
the
is
highest
insane.
fight IQ maybe ever.
This guy hits hard. He's tough. He's this, he's that. And this guy has a dream. But my fight IQ will win this fight.
Welcome to the Fight IQ podcast. We're back with another episode. This weekend we have UFC Fight Night, Cannonier versus Rodrigues. Very excited to see RoboCop get back into the octagon. Same with Jared Cannonier. Overall, it's not a bad card. It's kind of scattered with some good fights here and there. Not every fight is a banger, but on paper, I think this is actually better than the pay-per-view we just had. We're going to change things up a little bit. We're actually going to start at the top this time. Let's start with Jared Cannonier versus Gregory Rodrigues, because I'm actually really excited for this one. Just right off the bat, I'm going with Gregory. Even though he looks like Obama, he's actually pretty young. I think he's only like 32. He's like 33 at the oldest, maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, you know, I like his momentum at the moment better than I like Jared Cannonier's. Obviously, Cannonier's been in the UFC for a long time, started at heavyweight, eventually found his way down to his natural weight class at middleweight, and did really, really well at first. You know, something about Jared Cannonier that I really do like is his well-roundedness. And not only his well-roundedness, he's very, very strong. Being that he came down from originally being a heavyweight, he's a really, really strong middleweight. But one of the big reasons why I'm going with RoboCop here is because he is a big, strong middleweight as well. I mean, this dude is powerful not only in the striking, but in the grappling as well. So yeah, I tend to be leaning towards RoboCop here.
Yeah, I'm also going to go RoboCop on this one. I feel like you were saying, how he has a lot of momentum coming in right now. Another thing that is going to play a big factor, I'm just going to piggyback a lot off what you said here. RoboCop is 32 and Jared Cannonier is now 40. And I feel like athletically, RoboCop is, in his prime for like those heavier weight classes. He's been on fire lately with some great performances. He's very durable and he hits very hard. He also has a very, very good grappling game. And lately, Jared Cannonier hasn't been able to find those shots on opponents that are way less dangerous and as far as like power punchers. He's been fighting a lot of like really crisp boxers that combination strike a lot, but he hasn't really fought like somebody that hits very hard in a while. So I feel like Cannonier is going to have some problems there. One thing that Cannonier does do very well is he's really brutal with his ground and pound. So if he does get an advantageous position on RoboCop, I can see him like a method to victory for Jared Cannonier being like a ground and pound finish from like a reversal.
Absolutely. And I sorry to cut you off. I just think based on what you just said, that's like one of my favorite tools that Cannonier uses. Because he's so strong, when he gets a guy hurt or even, he'll take guys down and just have really, really strong top position, and where a lot of guys, when they get really strong top position, they don't really throw a whole lot because they're afraid of losing the position. Jared Cannonier is really good at like positioning himself really, really well standing over them. It's kind of like this crouch stand over them and just yeeting punches into them, like throwing everything, like coming from like back here and just, you know what I mean? That type of ground and pound. He's not a big hammer fist guy. He like really, really throws his hips into the ground and pound as if it were like a standing hook where you're turning your hips into it. And so, yeah, if Jared Cannonier gets on top of you, he can really do some damage. But Gregory Rodrigues is not the kind of guy who, if he's on bottom, he's just going to accept that position. He just doesn't do that.
Yeah, man, his grappling is really well. He's a black belt, and like I said, he just has some really heavy hands, and he's just willing to walk into the fire and really, throw down. I feel like momentum-wise, if he gets Jared Cannonier against the cage, it's going to be a really big problem if he's constantly like cornering him against the cage and able to get off his shots against the cage. I feel like that's probably where the fight's going to end. It's going to be one of those situations, maybe in like the third or fourth round when Jared's getting a little bit tired. RoboCop is going to, corner him against the cage and land a couple big shots, and it's going to be a TKO finish against the fence.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there, and especially like you said, somewhere maybe like round 4. Like even I could see it because Jared Cannonier has been taking a lot of damage in his last few fights. I could see it even happening sooner, end of round 2, maybe round 3 even. RoboCop also is really, really good at mixing things up, especially when because his pressure is really good. He loves hurting guys and then pressuring them against the fence. And Cannonier likes doing the same thing, but it's a little bit different when you have the threat of the tools of RoboCop. Like, I could just see RoboCop hurting Cannonier, getting him up against the fence, because Cannonier does this thing where when you get him up against the fence, he does really like shell up with his high guard, and he's got a good high guard, but then that opens up RoboCop's ability to change levels and
even hits the body too.
Yeah,
he does lots of body shots.
Hits the body really well, but the thing is like, I could see like, if RoboCop gets him up against the fence, you don't really know what RoboCop is going to do. Is he going to rip hooks to the body? Is he going to continue to go for the headshots? Is he going to change levels and go for a takedown? All of that is available for RoboCop once he has you hurt, and you don't necessarily know which route he's going to take. And I think that level of confusion that he can cause is going to cause Cannonier a little bit of trouble. Now, I will say, I think at first this is going to be a back and forth fight. I can see it going back and forth. I could see RoboCop getting cut open a little bit and then battling it out. But that's just the thing, is Cannonier gets worse as the fight goes on, and RoboCop gets better as the fight goes on. And it doesn't matter how hurt you have RoboCop, he's there. You have to put him out. And we've seen Jared Cannonier just kind of get hurt and shell up sometimes. So yeah, man, I think it is going to start out relatively competitive, but I think come round 3, I think RoboCop's going to start pulling ahead.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, good predictions on that one.
Yeah. Let's move down. Calvin Kattar versus Youssef Zalal. I've been looking forward to this fight. Not even particularly this fight, just since Youssef Zalal has come back to the UFC, I've been looking forward to his next fight every single time, and especially his last performance with that beautiful knee KO over, was it Jack Shore?
Yep.
Man, beautiful, beautiful performance. And Youssef Zalal is another one of these guys who's young, and I mean, he's not super young, but he's extremely well-rounded, and for sure more well-rounded than Calvin is.
Yeah, I'm going to go Youssef Zalal on this one. Yeah, he's still pretty young. He's 28 years old, so he's still getting after it. It's easy to think he's been around for a while, because he did have some fights in the UFC, got cut, and then found his way back, and since then he's been undefeated. He's been on a tear lately, mixing in a lot of really awesome grappling performances with a lot of good striking and stuff like that in there as well. So I think that at this point in time, Calvin Kattar is probably still not the best from that injury that he had. And what was that fight? Which fight was it where he blew out his knee going for the flying knee?
Was it the Josh Emmett fight? I don't think so.
Josh Emmett kind of won a split decision, and it was versus Arnold Allen.
Okay.
He threw a flying knee, and when he landed, it blew his knee out.
Okay.
And I felt like his performance against Aljo really showed that he's not really confident putting weight on that knee anymore. So Youssef Zalal being able to mix up the grappling and the striking, I think, will give Calvin enough problems. And I'm going to pick Youssef Zalal on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Youssef as well. Listen, Calvin Kattar is extremely high level, especially everybody knows how good his boxing is. The thing is here, I'm going to say Youssef Zalal is going to win a pretty clear 30-27. Dude, if Aljamain Sterling couldn't sub Calvin Kattar, I really don't think Youssef Zalal is going to be able to. While he does have a good submission game. It's not to the strength level of Aljamain Sterling. And, you know, it's MMA math, but I think this one's pretty good MMA math. When you're talking about Calvin Kattar was able to survive almost a pure grappler in Aljamain Sterling. That being said, some different, you know, aspects can get thrown in if Calvin's worried about the striking, or he's on his back and he's worried about the ground and pound. Maybe Yusuf Zalal can slip something in. But I do see this being Yusuf Zalal moving really well, Calvin not moving as well, and Yusuf Zalal being able to outwork him on the feet, and that's pretty much how I see this one going. But either way, I am really excited to see Yusuf fight again. I actually didn't know that he was still that young, just because he's been around the fight game for a while, which even more so convinces me. I'm going with Yusuf here.
Another thing too is Calvin is susceptible to just letting fights go by. He's willing to eat like half a round on his back before really trying to get back up to his feet, or just let fights go by without any action happening. So yeah. I feel like that's, with a style like his, where he doesn't really have as many threats and as many weapons, that's not the best thing for you to, be shooting for.
Yeah, definitely. Like, even if you look at Calvin Kattar's best performances, he's not just coming out and immediately dominating guys. He gets his beautiful jab going. He starts putting his combinations together. People start to wear the damage over time, and then he stops it. I mean, aside from the elbow KO of Jeremy Stevens, I can't think of like one really good, just like one shot, boom, done. You know what I mean? And even if there was, he was getting it going with that jab and really, really starting to make his combinations work before finding the right punch. And I just think it's going to be a big ask to do against Zalal.
Absolutely.
Someone who like moves really well and is evasive.
Can do it all.
Yeah. All right, let's move down. Edmen Shahbazyan versus Dylan Budka. I think this is like one of the biggest locks on the card. I'm going Edmen Shahbazyan. He came on the scene pretty hot. He's still super young as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Edmen Shahbazyan's like 27 or 28 also.
Yeah, man, he's still he's still very young. He has a lot of miles though.
Yeah, he does, and he's been beat up pretty bad. He's had some great he's had some great performances, and he's had some really bad performances. Notably, like the one that I can remember is when he got fucked up by Derek Brunson. And Dylan Budka is a wrestler, but he's not a wrestler to the degree that Derek Brunson is. And Derek Brunson is just like a crazy man. Like, in terms of the pace that he puts on people, Dylan Budka's just not that. And I think, like, for Edmen is one of those guys that I think, like, he does need the fight to be kind of pretty and going his way. And guys like Derek Brunson, who were able to just like put the pressure on him to where he couldn't handle it. Those are the type of guys that beat Edmen, and I don't think that Dylan Budka is that guy. Budka hasn't won a fight in the UFC yet, and for you to beat Shahbazyan, you do have to be very good.
100%, man. Shahbazyan has been up there with a lot of highly ranked people, and although he's lost to all of them, that experience, it has to count for something. All that being said, Shahbazyan is one of these people that only has like a round and a half in the gas tank, and then his game just goes straight into the fucking dumpster. If Shahbazyan goes anywhere longer than 2 rounds, usually that third round it's looking really rough. He's very sloppy, exhausted. I don't know what the deal is there. Because he's one of those people that you just hear is always in the gym, so it just might just he just doesn't have good cardio, like genetically. I don't think Dylan Budka is going to be able to implement a game plan that's going to really shut down Shahbazyan. What you need in order to beat them is just high level grappling. He only loses to people that are high level on the grappling and that can make him work on the grounds and shut him down. That way he's using a lot of energy trying to get back up, because when he gets down in these positions where he's on his back, he does do the right things to get back up, but it just takes up so much of his energy. And usually he's going up against these high level grapplers like Imavov and Fluffy Hernandez and all these people, and Jack Hermanson, all these people that can just hold him down and make him use all that energy trying to spaz up from the bottom. And that leads into his next problem, which is not good cardio. And then he gets finished, and it's usually really rough, and he gets pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
But he has really good striking. I feel like it's going to be more than enough to put away Dylan Budka. And Shabazian's anti-wrestling is not the worst. It's literally like by the time round 2 comes around, if he's defending takedowns and having to strike and having to do all that stuff, his defense goes out the window, and it's just game over from there.
Yeah.
That being said, though, I feel like this is an easy pick for Shabazian to win. He's just one of those people that he needs to find where he belongs in that division, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And, I think, too, like in the beginning of his UFC career, he was taking fights pretty often. And now we're seeing as he's getting older, he's kind of putting a little bit more time in between his fights, which I personally like to see, especially because he's still so young. So, Edmund Shabazian, I think, is a pretty safe pick here. Let's go down. Ismail Bonfim versus Nazim Sadikov. I'm personally a big fan of Ismail Bonfim. I was a fan of his brother as well. But, man, after that loss to Nicholas Dalby, I'm like,
yeah, it's kind of hard.
Can I fucking trust you anymore? I don't think I can. But Ismail, I mean, everybody saw the beautiful knockout he had over Terrence McKinney. It was like a jumping switch knee, right?
Yep.
Man, fucking nice. And he's super well-rounded. Nazim Sadikov is good as well. I'm not going to lie. He is a good fighter. But to me, like, I don't see anything particularly special. He's well-rounded. He can hang with people on the feet, and he's got good grappling. Obviously, he's from that part of the world where everyone just kind of by default has decent grappling. But I'm going to trust in Ismail Bonfim here. I'm going to trust that, I think where Ismail Bonfim runs into trouble is when sometimes he'll start stalking guys, but he doesn't really cut the cage off. He starts following them and kind of looking for one big shot. I think if he can just put the pressure on and just throw combinations, mix in the takedowns, mix in a couple different threats, like he has good kicks and good knees as well as good boxing. I think if he can just mix it up well enough, I think he'll be able to get it done. And be careful not to chase Sadikov around the cage. Because another thing that Sadikov does have is like decent movement. He doesn't just back straight up. Like if guys are pressuring him, he'll use good lateral movement too. So I think for Ismail here, he needs to like really try to cut the cage off and not get caught following Sadikov.
Heck yeah, man. I think I'm actually going to risk it and go Sadikov on this one. I know that Bonfim has the better win over Terrence McKinney. They both have finished him. The flying knee is a lot cooler than a submission, but I'm going to bet on his grappling being enough to get the job done. I'm just going to kind of, go off the vibes on this one, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, fair enough. Especially, too, like talking about submitting Terrence McKinney. Like, if we're talking about which one's more impressive, like, Terrence McKinney gets finished on the feet. You know what I mean? I know we've talked about it before, and I guess, people probably have realized this over time, that Terrence McKinney's strength really is his grappling. So I think actually getting a submission over him is pretty impressive. I just think I'm going to trust that Bonfim's grappling is good as well, because him and his brother both do have really good jiu-jitsu. So I'm going to trust that Ismail is going to have good enough jiu-jitsu defense to where he'll have the better moments in the exchanges on the feet.
Heck yeah. And, I do think Bonfim probably should be the favorite in this one, for sure. But, yeah, I think the difference is going to be I think he's going to be able to put on a similar game plan as Benoit Saint Denis and like mix in some really shitty striking with some takedowns and ultimately control position, maybe find a finish and get like I feel like this fight might be like a boring 29-28 or a split decision.
Yeah. No, it could. It definitely could. Like I said, sometimes Bonfim gets in a habit of following people and then, can't just... He wants to get these strikes off, but it just seems like he's a little bit out of range because he's not cutting them off. But either way, let's move down. Rodolfo Vieira versus Andre Petroski. This is weird. Like, Rodolfo Vieira is almost a -300 favorite, but I see this like pretty even on paper.
I definitely don't. I don't rate Petroski that highly. I've seen him just break under, like, really quick into fights, like cardio wise. Rodolfo Vieira has a lot of really solid wins, and it's around, like, the people that Rodolfo Vieira is beating are right around Andre Petroski's caliber. And I've seen Petroski fold, like, really quickly. His striking's not the best. He has decent grappling, but I don't think Petroski's going to be able to get much going in this fight. I think Rodolfo's going to be a pretty clear win for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm picking Rodolfo as well. I'm definitely not picking Petroski. It's like very hard to pick him to win a fight. The way that he wins fights is just either submitting a complete can, or, you know, he'll ride out top control for entire rounds. I'm definitely not picking him to win. I just think the odds are interesting to me, especially because Vieira, obviously his strength is his submission game, and Petroski is predominantly a grappler. Yeah, man, I do think Vieira is a little bit better on the feet. I like the way he kind of like hops in. He's got like this nice footwork where he has like a nice measured hop. I really do like his style on the feet better than Petroski's. Yeah, but is Vieira going to be able to get the takedowns against Petroski is the question.
Well, Petroski's striking is really nothing to shake your head at either. You know, it's not like he has a lot of threats. His striking is not the best. So I feel like it's going to be a sloppy striking match, and then, you know, I feel like that's fight's not really going to be too much fun either.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the entire fight did take place on the feet.
Yeah, just because, like, a really crappy. Because
you got to admit that Petroski's grappling is good.
Yeah, that's his game.
And particularly his wrestling is better than Vieira's. Vieira has a better submission game, but Petroski does have the edge in wrestling. So I think it is going to be pretty hard for Vieira to take Petroski down. And his route to finish would be submitting Petroski. That being said, man, Petroski had that really, really weird, like, TKO loss to Jacob Malkoun, was it?
I think so.
Where he kind of like hit his head on the hip of Malkoun and kind of like got dazed and went down. I could see Vieira, like, you know, shooting a bunch of failed takedowns, but getting Petroski to think about it, and then like feinting a takedown and rocking Petroski with like some sloppy punch. I could definitely see that. Either way, I'm gonna pick Vieira by like 29-28 or something like that.
Yeah.
But it'll probably be unanimous.
That's a good pick.
Yeah. All right, let's move down. One that I'm really not looking forward to: Connor Matthews versus Jose Delgado. It's not that these guys are not good. I do rate Connor Matthews. There's just like nothing special about him. Like, he's an overall
generic NPC fighter.
Yeah, generic NPC fighter. But he's an NPC fighter that gets wins. You know what I mean? Like, he knows how to win fights for sure. I'm just gonna go for Connor Matthews. I'd be lying if I said I knew a ton about Jose Delgado. So I'm just gonna fucking say Connor Matthews. I don't really care about this fight at all.
Yeah, I don't really care too much about this one. This is actually Jose Delgado's debut, but I'm seeing here that he trains at the MMA lab. Very good gym. Those guys usually come out very well rounded, and you know they don't really have a lot of holes.
A lot of good bantamweights though. I don't really like, off the top of my head, I can't think of a ton of featherweights that come out of that gym, but ton of good bantamweights to train with.
Yeah, so I feel like Jose Delgado is going to be ready. He's going to be ready for his UFC debut if he doesn't have the octagon jitters. I feel like Connor Matthews is a very beatable opponent for him. And, yeah, man, I'll just base another pick off the vibes here. He's 26 years old. He's going to be young and hungry.
Yeah.
Coming from the MMA lab, you know, having very good training partners and very elite level coaching. Like, this is a place where Yuri Prohaska drops in to work on his wrestling. This is John Jones stopped at the MMA lab, to work with them.
Yeah. Conor Matthews does have good grappling though.
Yeah. So we'll see, man. We'll see how it goes. I'm definitely gonna go. Definitely gonna go Jose Delgado off the vibes.
All right, for sure.
We'll see how it goes.
All right, cool. Let's move on because honestly, like, I'm not just trying to bullshit about this fight that I don't really care about. Let's move down to the prelims. Talking about another fight that I don't care about. Angela Hill versus Ketlen Souza. Angela Hill still number 13 ranked somehow. Listen, I've been pretty clear about it before too. Like, I really don't like Angela Hill's fighting style. That being said, there were some fights that I thought she won that she kind of got screwed over. And against strong competition too. Like the fight against Claudia Gadelha. And at the time, Claudia Gadelha was like in the top 5, I think, at the time. Mm-hmm. I thought Angela Hill won that fight. Ketlen Souza, however, little bit different of a beast. Looks a little bit more like a man, which, is a pretty good base for women's MMA. 100%. They're both the same height. They both got around the same reach, but like Angela Hill doesn't really do shit with her reach. Ketlen Souza is much stronger. I'm gonna go with Ketlen Souza. She's younger. She's fresher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Ketlen Souza on this one too, man. If you knock out Jasmine Uruguay, I feel like you're gonna have some success against Angela Hill.
Dude,
I think Uruguay is really good.
Yeah, she is, and she dropped her and submitted her, I think, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She knocked her out, or not knocked her out, but like knocked her down really bad. You can tell it was a big shot.
Yeah.
And she just went for the submission there.
Yeah.
I think she's going to be able to pressure Angela Hill because Angela Hill does concede a lot of space in the octagon. She's okay floating again and like moving against the cage. So I think Susan's going to be able to corner her up against the cage and land like a big hook overhand or something big against the cage. Drop Angela Hill. There's going to be a big moment. And then, I feel like that's going to be the story of the fight there. It's just some big moments. I think Angela Hill might last maybe till the second round before getting finished. And,
dude, I personally think this is going to go to decision. Honestly, Angela Hill isn't easy to finish.
She's really not.
With all the shit that I talk about her in terms of like her punching power and her kind of weirdness and her flicking punch style, like she has
her hands like this.
She has like her wrists flex when she punches. You know what I mean? Like where usually you want that strength, you want like a nice like straight line from your knuckles to your elbow, and you want like a nice solid wrist. Like when she punches, her wrist like bends. So she ain't knocking anybody out. She's definitely not knocking out Ketlen Souza. She's not taking her down and submitting her. 17-14 is her record, bro.
Yeah.
That might be.
And she's 40.
And she's 40. Man, listen. Angela Hill's cool, and she's whatever.
Fun.
She's fun.
Yeah.
She's she throws a lot of volume. I think she's
a
like
dollar store Joanna,
Yeah, and I'm sorry I keep saying like I think with everything, but I'm doing this video completely off of memory. But I'm almost positive she's like number 3 for most significant strikes landed in UFC history. Like she throws a lot, but it just doesn't do anything. Like how many knockdowns has she ever scored?
Yeah, and that's the thing that's really frustrating about her game is because she's able to land, and she's able to make her techniques look really cool, but they have no stank at all. It's like none. She's landing like these combinations. She's landing knees, she's landing elbows, she's landing some kicks, but they all have like 10% power on them. And she's never had any like really big moments where she rocks an opponent with a big attack or anything like that. And I just feel like
if anything, it's like clinch knees. She's got decent clinch knees, but that's really it.
Yeah, I just feel like if your whole game is striking, you should at least have a couple highlights of, you doing some really cool shit, wobbling an opponent, something like that in all the fights she has. Because she fights pretty often.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Caitlin Sue's on this one.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's move down. Jared Gordon versus Mashrabjan Ruzabayev. Man, I think this is actually going to be a pretty close fight. Ruzabayev has a ton of first round knockouts. Like this dude is dangerous. I'm not gonna lie. But dude, Jared Gordon is sneaky good. He's like one of these guys. He's one of these guys that like he's not like crazy physically gifted. He does have some decent power in his hands. Like he can finish guys with the boxing. And his grappling is good too. Like his grappling is not bad. I think like these guys are pretty evenly matched in terms of size. Let me just look at this. Yeah, Jared Gordon 5'9", Ruzabayev 5'8". They don't have any reach listed for Ruzabayev, but I'm almost positive they have the same reach. It's just crazy. 68 inches of reach at lightweight is like very small for Jared Gordon.
T-Rex arms.
You wouldn't think he'd be able to close the distance and make it to you, but he does. This is what I'm saying. It's like you even watching the fight, not just like looking at a picture of Jared Gordon. When you're watching the fight, you're like, man, he's having a hard time of like making it to him. But look at the Paddy Pimblett fight. I mean, that's like, the biggest example that people are gonna remember. The left hooks he was cracking Paddy Pimblett with were like really impressive.
Yeah.
If Ruzabayev can't finish Gordon in the first round, I think this is going to go to Gordon. I'm going to pick Gordon. He's got more UFC experience. And listen, I'm a big fan of Uzbeki fighters. They are very well-rounded. They have power in their hands. They're aggressive. They come into the UFC with like 25 fights already on their record. How many fights does Ruzabayev have?
Yeah, he's 20-4, so 24 fights.
Yeah, 24 fights. Like I said, I am a fan of Uzbeki fighters, and I do think Ruzabayev is good. But Jared Gordon is like this sneaky good guy that like maybe some people underestimate, and then he just finds ways to hit you. I'm going Gordon. It's going to be a close fight, but I do think Gordon is going to win, like maybe a split decision.
All right. So this is another fight that I'm going to go off the vibes on because Ruzabayev is making his UFC debut for this fight. I haven't really seen him fight before. I'm looking at his record. I'm seeing a lot of first round KOs, and I'm seeing, his fucking nickname is Black Junior, bro. I think Black Junior is about to KO Flash Gordon, dude.
That's a pretty sick nickname.
It's a pretty sick nickname. But another thing too is Flash Gordon's coming off a split decision to Nasrat Haqparast, and I don't really rate him that good as a fighter.
I thought he won that fight though. It was close, but I thought Jared won that fight.
And another thing too is his win over Mark Madsen. I really don't rate that highly. I really think that's a fight that he should have easily won.
Yeah.
I'm going to bet that Ruzabayev is going to be a better striker than Nasrat, and he's going to be able to find a finish in the first two rounds. So, and this is completely off the vibes. I know we've seen a lot more of Jared Gordon, and he upset Paddy Pimblett. I thought he won that fight too. But I feel like styles make fights, and this is probably going to be a fight where Ruzabayev is going to be able to box his face off, and we'll see if I'm right.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Ruzabayev does, he's not just like this guy who bum rushes forward. He does kind of have like measures with his front hand a little bit. He's got a nice leg kick. He does use kicks, which you do need to use kicks against Jared Gordon.
He does move laterally quite a bit.
Yeah. Man, yeah, I'm gonna keep my pick. I'm gonna keep my pick with Gordon here, but this should be a fun split decision in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like that fight's gonna be sneaky good, honestly.
Yeah, it could be. Let's move down though. Rafael Estevam versus Jesus Aguilar. Is this Estevan's debut? I believe it is.
Let's see.
Maybe
He's
not.
also he beat Charles Johnson by unanimous decision.
Oh, dude, that's right. Yeah, that's more impressive to me than any win that Jesus Aguilar has. I'm a huge fan of Charles Johnson. I think Charles Johnson should be getting a top 5 fight right now, and especially like he's on a 4-fight win streak, and guys that he's beat are getting fight up the rankings, but he's not. Rafael Estevam is undefeated, and that win over Charles Johnson is super impressive. I to be completely honest with you, I don't particularly remember it. But just seeing that he has that win on his record is extremely impressive to me. I think Charles Johnson is one of the best flyweights fighting today.
Yeah, he's pretty good, man. I'm also going to go with Estevam because of that reason. I did see the KO over Jesus Aguilar, or over that Jesus Aguilar had over Ross, and that was a pretty sick overhand. We were kind of talking about this before the podcast started.
Trash
but
overhand, ugly.
I think that overhand was sick because he landed it, and before the dude was flattened out from being KO'd, he was already standing over him like, I could fucking kill you right now.
Yeah, but
dude.
he was standing over him not purposely. He's standing over him because the overhand lunged him forward, and he was off
No, he
balance.
changes angle, bro. He hits it, and then he kind of changes angle a little bit.
Dude.
You could see where his weight shifts, bro. So
when you throw an overhand that has such a lack of technique, and you're literally just winging it, what you can see exactly what happens when you wing a hard punch like that is exactly what happened when you wing that overhand, and then it literally brings your rear foot forward and you land square. That's exactly what happened. It was a horrible technique. You could defend the punch all you want and the whatever. Horrible punch, dude. It was literally from his hip over like this. He was looking at his feet. His left hand was all the way down at his hip. It's legitimately one of the ugliest punches I've ever seen. It shouldn't work. It should never work. The only reason why it worked was because he was fighting Shannon Ross, who literally gets knocked out by everyone. Shannon Ross made it into the UFC after a TKO loss on the Contender Series. Who gets TKO'd on the Contender Series, and then the UFC's yeah, let's bring him in. He literally, I think they just brought him in because the flyweight has such a shortage of good fighters, unless you're talking about the very, very top. They clearly brought in Shannon Ross just to get knocked out by people. I mean, he got knocked out on the Contender Series, and then had 3 fights in the UFC, all by knockout loss.
Yeah, they were all bad. They were all bad ones.
Yeah. And listen, Jesus Aguilar, he only has 1 loss in the UFC to Tatsuro Taira. But he's just not good. And when you're talking about, look, dude, I'm looking at their stats right now. Jesus Aguilar is 5'4", and Estevam is 5'8". Jesus Aguilar has a 62.5-inch reach. That might be the shortest male reach in UFC history. I can't think of anyone in the men's divisions that's had a shorter reach than that. I think Henry Cejudo has a longer reach than that.
That's honestly crazy, dude.
62.5. That's nuts.
It was still a sick overhand, but I think that's not going to be enough to beat Estevam.
Yeah.
So that's why he's my pick.
Yeah.
I rate that win over Charles Johnson higher than I rate the KO over Shannon Ross.
100%.
Because, like Ryan was saying, he was brought in to be a KO merchant against everybody he fought. In the flyweight division. They had no finishes at the time before Shannon Ross came around. But made shit happen.
Yep. All right. Estevam for the win. That actually might be the biggest lock of the card. And he's minus 485 favorite. So let's go down to the other Bonfim brother, Gabriel Bonfim versus Chaos Williams. This is a hard one to pick. Honestly, I'm still kind of working it out in my head. Give me your take on this fight, because I'm still kind of working it out.
All right, man. I'm actually going to go with Chaos Williams in this one, and I'll tell you why. I feel like Chaos Williams has sneaky good takedown defense. He's one of these people that you just shoot into, and he's like a brick wall. You can tell he's very sturdy and hard to move around. And another thing, too, is all of his success comes from counter-striking and punches in the pocket, notably really big hooks, intercepting counters when you're trying to get something going.
Yeah.
And I feel like with that power, Chaos Williams is going to be able to catch Bonfim either going for a clinch entry or in the middle of a combination. I feel like Chaos is going to catch him. So what Bonfim does a lot to try to get wins is he needs to grapple. And I just feel like that against Chaos Williams is not going to serve him too well. I feel like he's going to waste a lot of energy trying to grapple him. And then maybe round 2, he wobbles him and then gets a ground and pound finish.
Yeah. All right. Something that I've been going off memory this entire thing, but I need to look up Chaos Williams on Tapology right now, because if I'm thinking about this right, these are like two guys who are extremely talented and have great wins, but also have losses to like the worst fucking fighters in their division. I'm first off, I know Gabriel Bonfim has a loss to Nicholas Dalby, which Nicholas Dalby I think was on my list of buzzkill fighters as well. Like fighters that when they show up on a card, you're just like, God damn it, I have to watch this. So I know Gabriel Bonfim has that loss to Nicholas Dalby, which is pretty embarrassing. Even though Nicholas Dalby's not horrible, his style just sucks. And I'm almost positive that Chaos Williams has a loss to Alex Morono.
He doesn't. He KO'd Alex Morono.
He KO'd Alex Morono? Okay.
In the first round.
Okay, then I'm going Chaos Williams. I'm a fan of him just for that KO. And the KO of fucking Abdulrazak Alhassan flatlining him with just like a quick intercepting straight right.
Yep.
Was amazing too. And yeah, I do rate Gabriel Bonfim, but he is more of a grappler, and I don't see him taking down and submitting Chaos Williams before taking some major damage. So yeah, although I do rate Gabriel Bonfim pretty high, that loss to Nicholas Dalby just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, dude. I see that,
Yeah.
And if you look at Chaos Williams' losses, I think the one that you're talking about is his loss to Randy Brown. He also lost to Michel Pereira. So those two losses could go either way, but he was still in there for those fights.
Yeah.
And I just think he's going to have all the tools that are going to be necessary to shut down Bonfim.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I will say though is like I do like Gabriel Bonfim's footwork a little better. But I don't necessarily think Chaos Williams needs to have perfect footwork. I think it just needs to get to you.
He's one of those people that he's like a fucking Jason Voorhees, bro, where he just like slowly marches you down.
Yeah.
And he's just always right there in front of you.
And he doesn't have the greatest technique, but he's just so powerful.
100%, man. Yeah, he's so powerful. Had good takedown defense. You can tell he hits really hard. Fuck yeah, dude. I think Chaos Williams is going to sleep him.
Chaos Williams, let's go. But in my head, this was tough to pick because I do think it's pretty close on paper. One that I don't think is close on paper, this next one, Vince Morales versus Elijah Smith. This is Elijah Smith's debut, I believe. It is his debut. I remember seeing him fight on the Contender Series and being really impressed. I believe he's got a wrestling background, but he also is like a pretty talented striker. And Vince Morales has been around for a long time. I think this is his second go in the UFC. I think he got released and then had some pretty good wins on the regional scene again and then got brought back. But I've never been impressed by him. His grappling is just okay. His striking is not very good. Elijah Smith, on the other hand, is just all around talented. And although we haven't seen him in the UFC yet, I'm going to trust in him to get it done. He's young. He's the win on the Contender Series really impressed me because he was fighting a really tough guy. Sometimes you get those fights on the Contender Series where it's like one guy is clearly better and they're kind of just making the matchup so that one guy wins. And then you get other fights like when Diego Lopez fought Joe Anderson Brito, where it's like, okay, they're putting this fight together because it's two really, really good guys and they're trying to see who is going to come out on top and get the contract. Elijah Smith, I remember that fight being just like that. I think it was, oh man, I hate doing this completely off of memory sometimes, but I'm almost positive he was fighting that the guy from New Zealand who has like the they don't call him tattoos, they call him like moko or something like that, but like all around his mouth. It's like a...
Oh, yep. I know which one you're talking about. I remember that fight.
I'm pretty sure that's who it was. And like, if you're watching, don't fuck with me too hard because I am just going completely off memory, but I'm almost positive that that's who he was fighting. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think it was. But either way, I do remember him fighting another really, really talented prospect and getting a really, really good decision win. So I'm going with Elijah Smith. He's well-rounded. He's cleaner. He's just all-around cleaner. So I'm gonna go with Smith here.
Ultimately, I'm going off the vibes off this one.
Yeah.
like I said, I'm looking at records here. I'm looking at, methods of victory and all that stuff. 3 first-round finishes, 4 by knockout from Elijah Smith. Um, I'm I'm down to just pick him off the vibes.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend too much time on it because I'm not the most familiar with him. I didn't even watch his Contender Series fight, but
Nah, he's good.
Off the
he's
vibes.
good. Nah, he is good. And Vince Morales never has really like shown anything special. But that being said, let's move down. Don'Tale Mayes versus Walter Walker. Walter Walker looks menacing in his photo on the UFC website. Don'Tale Mayes, dude, we are living in a world where Don'Tale Mayes is in the top 15 of the heavyweight division and hasn't had a good win in I don't fucking know how long. Like occasionally he has like he moves pretty well. Like for being a really big for being a really big heavyweight, he actually does kind of like style on people at times. But like he's just not very impressive to me. I'm pretty sure he trains in Albuquerque with Jackson Wink.
Yep, Jackson Wink.
But man, like he just doesn't show. It doesn't have anything special to me. Like he's a big heavyweight with seemingly not a ton of power. Like he moves pretty well for his size, but he's not like as athletic as like an Aspinall or a Cyril Gane or like a Jalton Almeida type guy. And Walter Walker, he had kind of a weird debut, but I'm going to trust in him to get it done. I think Walter Walker is pretty good.
Dude, the thing is that's really fucking tough about this pick, bro, is like Don'Tale Mayes, like if you're looking at, how he fights, the decision he makes, this is a very winnable fight for Walter Walker, but he's just a fucking caveman, dude. He has some amazing wrestling, and his grappling is actually very good. Like when you watch his training videos, like the shit he's doing grappling wise is very high level, and whenever he implements his grappling in his MMA fights, he does very well. But the thing is there'll be fights where he just doesn't fucking use it at all. It's like, oh, I'm a really good fucking grappler, but I'm just going to have like the most shitty striking match with you and lose on the feet.
Yeah.
And he's just one of these people that falls victim to that. Don'Tale Mayes has a loss to fucking Hamdi.
Bro, he got the shit beat out of him by Hamdi.
Yeah, dude, exactly. And that's the reason why I'm going to pick Walter Walker. But I am going to concede, if you value who we pick, that I'm fucking betting on if he uses his fucking brain and actually grapples a little bit, at least enough to tire out his arms so he's not getting that saucy boxing coming at him,
Yeah.
Because Don'Tale Mayes, if he's one of those fighters that if you let him get momentum and start feeling himself, he's going to just start piecing you up and he's going to start, fucking like a fucking King Green kind of.
Yeah. Dude, he will start styling on you. He will start marching you down with his hands down. Yeah, he will. He will, but not right away. Like only if he knows he's winning.
100%.
For sure.
He's a momentum fighter for sure, and I feel like Walter Walker is going to be enough to shut that down. So
yeah, but let's remember, dude. This is heavyweight. They're fucking retarded. Like, who really gives a shit? Because there are 30 heavyweights currently signed to the UFC. Only 30, dude. 15 ranked and 15 unranked. So, man, heavyweight just sucks, dude. I've said it in videos before. I'll say it again. I fucking hate heavyweight. I always have. It's the stupidest division. It's dumb as shit. And, like, I literally don't even care about this fight.
Bro, Don'Tale Mayes is number 15.
I know.
Fucking
dude.
Nuts.
What world do we live in? Speaking of what fucking world do we live in, the fight that's opening up the entire card, how is Julia Avila number 12? How is she ranked number 12? Jacqueline Cavalcanti, on the other hand, is actually skilled. She's got wins over Cornell, who actually is like decently skilled as well. Dude, there's a reason why Cavalcanti is minus 700 here. I'm not spending a ton of time here. She's going to win. She's going to beat the shit out of Julia Avila. The only thing that Avila has is aggression. She's like, the only thing that I can remember from her fights is that she has aggressive wine mom boxing. Like, the way that Julia Pena, like, walks forward and just throws shitty punches as she's walking forward, that's Julia Avila. And, Cavalcanti actually has skill. She's going to win the fight.
Yeah, I'm going Cavalcanti as well.
Yeah. Fuck that. I don't even want to talk
Yeah.
about this fight anymore. That's the entire card. UFC Fight Night, Jared Cannonier versus RoboCop, Gregory Rodrigues. That's that, man. On paper, it's a better fight than last weekend's pay-per-view. Let us know what you think in the comments. That's what we think. Please remember to like and subscribe. We really, really appreciate everyone watching. Enjoy the fights. We'll catch you later. Adios.
Peace.